Okay, in an effort to save a little bit of time, I went ahead and pulled out a focal image, which happens to also be vellum, which is interesting. I have, let me turn this so that you can see it on white. I have a couple of these. This is my last butterfly, actually. But I have some dragonflies and some flowers that are also out of this vellum. And someone gifted these to me, and they're absolutely beautiful. I am truly in love with them. So I wanted to use this as a focal point on this really bright, colorful page. And I went ahead and pulled out a couple of things to just kind of go with it. So these are both the top layer of a printed paper napkin. This one is purple, and there's some purple in the butterfly. And then this one just kind of looks a lot like the page, I think, with the yellow and the pink and stuff. So I kind of pulled those together, and I think I want to use some of those. And then I was thinking about it, and I don't, the butterfly is kind of not, it could hold the entire page, but it's a little small. So I thought I would add a few other things to sort of help hold the page, the focal point of the page. And so I pulled out this pretty little doily that's been kind of partially cut already. But then I started thinking about flowers and leaves and stuff like that. So I just kind of pulled some of these different things. These are, all three of these are jelly print pages. This is book text. This is lined school paper. And then this is just plain copy paper. And then this is fabric, but I kind of liked the way it went with the bluish green part of the butterfly. So I'm thinking leaves for that. But then I found this is a little more of that stiff fabric, and this is gold. And then I have this gold tissue paper, which, come on, if we're going to do neon pink, we might as well, really glam it all up and get some gold paper. So I'm thinking leaves for a lot of this stuff, except maybe not for the two paper napkins. And I think the best way for me to kind of get started is to get some of the paper napkin down onto the page, and then I can sit while that dries and cut out some leaf shapes. And then whether the butterfly will end up down here and the leaves will go here, or maybe the butterfly will be up here and the leaves will be down here. I'm not really sure. Perhaps even the leaves coming all around out of here, and maybe the butterfly is somewhere on top. Don't know yet. We will see. But for now, I just want to put down some of this paper napkin, and I don't really want, because this purple is like really dramatic and dark, I don't want too much of it. But what I think I'm going to do is just cut out enough of it to make like maybe a partial border somewhere on the page. And I need to find scissors for that. Go with the big long pair. I think actually I'm going to go with, I have pinking shears, which I absolutely love to use every once in a while. I think they would look kind of cute with the paper napkin. So I'm going to try to cut it with that, although they're doing really good here. Some delicate items, it's kind of hard to cut with the pinking shears. But these are working really good because they're actually brand new. I just bought them recently, so that's why they're working so well. The older pair that I was using weren't quite as sharp, I think. And at the price of pinking shears, I think it would be worth it to find someone who could sharpen scissors if I want to buy another pair. Because I think I probably paid like $30 or so dollars for these, and these were the cheaper ones. I'm not quite sure why pinking shears should be so expensive, but they are. Now I'm going to fold this to cut this one so that I can, figure out the right width that it needs to be. I'm not sure I need this extra piece, but I might want a little bit extra. So. And then this I'll just put back in my paper napkin drawer, which I do actually have a drawer that is dedicated to paper napkins and tissue paper because I have a very large collection. So I think this is probably going to go something like this. And then that last little bit there will probably fit really nicely there. So I probably won't even end up using this. And I could do this at the top or at the bottom, you know, to anchor the page. But I think I'm going to go with it here just because I don't have to fuss with the coil binding side as much if I do that. And I'm just going to use straight scissors to clip this little piece off. And then that little piece can go down here to fill in that corner. Hope you can see that. So that's going to go down something like that. And then I think for this napkin, I really want to get rid of that heavy blue and pink border. I don't want to use that part of it at all. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of halfway neatly fold it back up. And I'm just going to cut that off because I know I don't want to use that that blue color in it. So I'm going to also stick that back in my drawer for use later. So now that leaves me with a pretty good sized chunk, and I don't want to cover that much of my background because I love my background. So what I'm actually going to do is just rip it, a section of it off. And then I think I will probably just put that down first and tuck it a little bit under that border like so. So I think that's going to go there. So I'm going to get those down. And I'm kind of liking that fun idea that I had by putting the doily off to the side. So I think I'm going to adhere the doily down probably about right there. Because my only other option would probably be to tuck it in up here. But I kind of like it centered. So that'll just get us started. I love to use paper napkins with my art journal pages. I absolutely adore them. You just have to be careful once you've gotten it saturated with a wet medium that you not constantly keep brushing over it, because if you do, it will tear very easy. Once it starts to tear, leave it alone. If you keep messing with it, it will kind of ball up and become this really yucky, gunky mess that you're not going to be happy with it. Trust me, hopefully don't learn that lesson the hard way. I've done it many times, and I get very frustrated with myself because I already know not to do it. So I'm going to take all the moisture out of this brush that I can kind of get out of it, because I don't want to get this any more wet than it needs to be. And I'm going to get a old card to use. And I'm going to start with this one because I want to layer this one over it. But I kind of need to get an idea of where it's going to go. So what I'm going to do is kind of get it on there approximately where I think it needs to be. And then I'm just going to fold it down. And I'll start here and then do the opposite. You'll see it. It'll make some more sense when you see it happening than when I try to describe it. So I've got some of the matte medium down. I'm going to lay my tissue down, or my paper napkin down. And you need to be gentle when you brush the paper napkin out as well, because unlike the tissue paper, it really, once it gets wet, it tends to rip a lot easier than a tissue paper does. I don't know why that is specifically, I just know it is. And I'm not, I'm being kind of skimpy with the amount of fluid that I put on it, only because I know I'm going to be putting a couple of layers on, and I don't want to have to dry it forever. Although in this case, well, actually, no, I would need to dry it because we need to finish the entire focal image today. So I don't want to oversaturate it and then have to heat gun it like crazy, trying to get it dry. I'm just going to get that little ripped piece to stick down. So then just kind of careful. I'm actually more pushing down than I am really pulling with this, because I do know what will happen to it if I start ripping it. If you do rip a tiny little section, just leave it. At that moment, just stop and leave it, because you're okay there with that little tiny rip. But when you start trying to make that little tiny rip, you know, like hide it or cover it up, it will turn into a mess every time. Now I'm just making sure that it's actually wet, because here in a few places I can see it's actually still dry even. Now I don't want to overwork this, but I want to put this other piece on. So I'm going to actually move this over and put my, my gel medium down over here. And then just add it on, just being really careful at that little edge, because I know I'm going to get medium on there, and I don't want to cause the napkin to crinkle up and create that mess I keep telling you about. So now that I've got the bulk of it wet over here, I'm going to start with the corner and get it there and kind of push it down a little, hold just for a second. Then I'm going to kind of try to manipulate it down onto the page. And I don't want to let it sit for too long, because once I do, I'm not going to be able to work back over it, because it's going to be too wet. So I'm just going to get this one going over and across. Now I'm just going to really gentle start working it down onto the page. It doesn't bother me. It's not a problem if it crinkles or wrinkles up. That's, you know, just the beauty of and nature of working with you know, a material such as a thin paper napkin. And paper napkins do not dry quite as translucent as tissue paper tends to. So you kind of got to keep that in mind. Some of this white looks more transparent right now than it will when it's dry. It will gain a little bit of that opacity back. And I still got to get this little piece down here on, but I kind of want to clean this up so I don't get too much gel medium on the back, because that's our page, our next page that we'll be working on. And gel medium on the back of it will change how it takes other mediums. So then I'm just going to use the little bit that was left of the matte medium. It was actually on the end of the container. Whoops, and I kind of do want to at least attempt to line that up. So I'm just going to get this wet and get it adhered down. And then I tend to cut this off if possible before it dries, because when it dries it gets kind of hard and, I don't know, a weird texture to it that I don't like cutting through with my scissors. So I forgot I was going to tuck that under, and I forgot to do that. So I do need to make it a little bit more straight, because the original cut to it was kind of a mess. I don't know what I was doing at the time, but I must have cut it pretty quickly. Oops, so you see all that dropping down on there? I'm going to have to get that off. Blah. Hopefully it'll shake off. Or not. No, it all shook off. Yay! Okay, let me get rid of this messy stuff. Whoops. Well, that was completely not worth it. I should have cut that off to the side. All right, so I'm going to pretend like I tucked that under, since I didn't tuck it under. And this is going to be kind of tricky. If you're not used to working with paper napkin and you're not sure, I would pause the video, or you know, if you're working along with me, stop it and let this completely dry. You could even hit it with your heat gun before you try to put this down, because you know the brushing action is highly likely to cause it to tear. I'm going to go for it because if I do tear it, then you'll actually get to see what I'm talking about in person, you know, as it happens. So I'm just going to brave it and we'll see how I do. So I'm just going to spread this out. Now I do want quite a bit because this little doily is a little tougher of a paper, and I want to make sure that it's going to be able to adhere down nicely. Now I still didn't get it cut real straight. You can see it there. So hopefully my use of my little leaves and things that I'm planning, maybe I can hide that a bit somehow. I really wish I'd have remembered to tuck it under there, but I didn't. And there's no way I'm pulling it back up because it wouldn't come back up. So now that I've got this all adhered down, I'm just looking for areas where it's kind of trying to lift, and I'm just putting a tiny bit of pressure. I am not putting an extreme amount of pressure because if I did, I might rip that napkin, and then I might regret that later. Now the doilies do tend to lift sometimes, so I'm going to take my card, and I am not going to drag across. I'm going to just put pressure and lift, so that when I'm moving it, I am lifting it. But I really want to put pressure down because you can see the huge difference that it makes where I've done it and where I haven't. It really helps it to adhere and kind of mesh with the paper napkin layer below it. And that's kind of important. And you can see right here, I touched it with my finger. See how it lifted? Right there, that could so easily turn into a tear. Ha, got it back down. Okay, not touching it again, because that's the where you run into ripping it all and getting frustrated because it's ripped. So while we're not touching this, I'm going to actually move it and sit it aside so that it can dry. And in the meantime, I'm going to cut out our little leaf patterns that I want to have to use with the butterfly. Now, I don't want little tiny leaves to speak of. I kind of want good sized leaves. So I think I can get probably either 2 or 4, depending on the size. I'm going to go for 2 and see if I like it. If I like it, I might do another one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the point here to help me start. So I'm going to start there, and this is a a little bit of an abstract leaf. It's not a perfect leaf or anything. It's one of my favorite shapes to work with, though. I even have a stencil that I designed with this little leaf shape in it. So that's a little funky right there. See if I can fix that one a bit. Okay, so that's good. So that's kind of the shape that I'm talking about. It's kind of like a pod or a leaf. And I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more because I just love the way this fabric looks. So I want to use more of it. So I'm going to cut another one out, or 2 more, really. So now I've got 4. This one's slightly bigger, I think. That's okay, it doesn't matter. And then these little scrap bits, I think I'll just probably toss. Now, this fabric is mounted to cardboard, and depending on how I'm using it, this is actually from a wallpaper sample book. Depending on how I'm choosing to use it, sometimes I pull it away from the cardboard, but in this particular instance, I don't think I need to. So I'm just going to leave it attached to the cardboard. It's difficult to get it back up off of there. Whoever designed these wallpaper books, boy, they didn't want you to lose that little tiny scrap of fabric, let me tell you, because it's really well adhered. Now, I want to do a couple of leaves out of this, but folding it isn't going to be as efficient, I don't think. So I'm just going to try to be mindful of the fact that I want to get a couple out of it. I mean, I would like to at least get 2, if not actually manage to get like 3 or 4. And because it's fabric glued to paper, it's not as easy to work with as the other one was. So I'm just going to kind of try to stack them a bit in the hopes that I get more. I don't know if I'm going to get just 4 or if I'm actually going to get 3. Can't tell for sure how I'm doing. I can be pretty dangerous with sharp objects, so I have a tendency to cut myself, which isn't good. Now that cut is a little too close. I wasn't able to really get it to round. No, I don't think I'm going to get 4. Even if I try to scrimp, I don't think I'm going to achieve 4. We'll see if I can get 1 more out of it. Don't know. I'm not that good with cutting. Oh yeah, I can get another one, I think. Maybe. It'll be kind of maybe on the small side, but that's all right. We need leaves of every shape and size. All right, I want at least 1. I'm going to just fold it. I'm going to go really big and then kind of small on this one. So here I'm going to get pretty big. So there it gives me 2 good sized little leaves. And then I want at least a couple of little ones. And there might be more efficient ways to cut these out. I repeat, I'm not very good with sharp objects. So I just kind of go with the flow and do what I think feels right. Now I picked this paper because it had a nice combination of the green and then also the pink and yellow orange sort of colors. And I think I'm going to try to do a good sized one so that I have a nice happy big one. But then it's kind of funky shape, isn't it? It's pretty sad when you can't cut your pods right. But then I think I want a couple of, smaller, maybe medium sized ones. So I'm going to fold this over. I think I'm just going to make it really super easy and cut them all at one time, hopefully. So I'm just going to make my little pod. There we go. It's got some little medium-sized ones here. Those are fun. I like those. And then I'll get a couple that are definitely going to match with the background. And I think I want to do these, let's see, maybe a little smaller than what I've done so far. So give that a go. Maybe even a little smaller than that. Okay. So now I've got kind of purple, orange, and pink, so I'm kind of pulling all of those in together, which is kind of nice. That way we know everything is going to look, reasonably good together. Now I've got this beautiful gold tissue paper. I absolutely love this stuff. Let's see here. If I cut from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's pretty awesome. I think I'm just going to cut right from here, and I don't know, I've got to go up quite a bit before I get into the uppermost, longest layer, or highest layer. Love this. It's almost like a green gold, but I love this stuff. So 1, whoops, 2, oh, come on. 3, 4, 5, ooh, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Fabulous. And then I'm going to do a small one. And I think I can, no, here, I'm just going to get a little one out of here. And these will be probably the smallest ones I've got. Whoops. One tried to get away. So then I've got these which are really oddly shaped. I see. That's better. Okay. So then I've got this whole little stash of tiny ones. Just this gold tissue paper is just so cute. Love it, love it. Those are a little oddly shaped. The page flipped over right there. Oh, darn. I probably won't be able to use those. But that's okay. I got plenty of them. All right. So that's it. Enough play. Clean all of this mess up. All down into my trusty little trash can I have there. Now I'm going to go ahead and just put all this excess stuff away, at least for now. Okay, so this is by no means dry. It's still got a ways to go before it's dry. I made so many leaves that might actually end up being the focus and not the poor little butterfly. I'm going to have to go ahead and try to heat gun this a little, and I don't want to, you know, cause it to bubble up and stuff, so I'm probably just going to let it dry, maybe for, you know, an hour or so, and then come back in and get the focal images on the page, and that'll be it for today. But first, let me get this dry. So now that our page is completely dry, we'll go ahead and add our leaves. And we probably are not going to use all of them. If you made as many as I did, you might not be using them all. But I'm sure you could use them in another page. So I'm just kind of separating them by color, but also by size. You want to kind of try to mix the different colors or, you know, types of papers together, so that you don't have one, you know, unless you wanted to do it in a pattern. But otherwise, you just kind of like getting a nice mix of them. And then we're going to start with the smallest ones, and I'm going to kind of lay this out just so that you get an idea of, you know, what we want it to look like in the end. But then I'm going to take it all apart and then actually use medium of some type to adhere it down. But this is just to kind of give an idea of what we're building, what we eventually want it to look like when we're done. This little white one's a little big, but I kind of want to have a little bit of the white up there. And you can see, possibly can see, that they're coming off the edge a little bit. So once we have everything glued into place, we will want to cut that off. This one's turned a little too much. Just trying to look at the colors. Oops. I thought I picked it up and there was nothing in my hand. It's a little bit cold here today, so my fingers aren't working quite as well as I might want them to be. And the only thing I see is I'm probably going to need to tuck something in here. So this is what, pretty much what we want to build. So, we'll cut it off down here, and this is what it'll look like. And then we will figure out where we want to place our butterfly. Not sure yet. So this is what we're going to build. Now, if you lay something out like this and you're really satisfied with it, there's a trick to being able to keep the layout. And I've probably shown that in my classes, many times before. But let me show you one more time. I just need to get a piece of paper. Here we go. This is just a folded sheet of paper. It's just kind of I use it to paint over. So I'm going to lay this over top of it, and I'm going to slide my hand under it so that I know that I've got all of the pieces pretty much, kind of sandwiched together. And then I'm just going to flip the entire thing over. And there you go. So now you actually have it in the order that it needs to go in to glue it down. I have found, though, that I have a tendency to alter kind of as I go. So this doesn't always work for me because I don't always stick to it. But if you can stick to it, then it's a nice way to preserve the layout that you had already sort of, put together. So I need to make sure that we're going in the right direction. So this is our first page. So this is how the page needs to be. Okay, now I have several different options I can use. I'm going to go ahead, though, because I'm using tissue paper and stuff like that. I'm going to go ahead and use a more wet medium. I'm going to use matte medium to adhere all this down. But you could use any type of glue, a good sturdy glue stick. If I could locate my glue, I probably would use that just because it'll be less messy, but I don't know what I've done with my glue. So I'm just going to use this matte medium, and I'm just going to put some out on my palette. And then I'm just going to use my flat brush that we've been using let's see, what is this? It is a, can't read it. I think it's probably a 12 flat, but I can't actually read the writing anymore on it. So I think I was around here with it, maybe not. Let's see. Can kind of figure out where I was. Yep, that's about where it was. So I'm just going to put some of the matte medium down and then put down the first petal. And I like to use matte medium with anything that's metallic. I love the way it kind of tones down the metallic, and yet it doesn't actually, really take away from it. So then I'm just going to start building all of my leaves or petals. Not really sure what this is, but whatever it is. It is going to get kind of bulky. I'm going to have a little bit of a problem with this because it's so thick. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull the fabric off. The reason why I don't pull the fabric off a lot is because of just what happened right there. It kind of can break up the fibers a bit, but that's okay. I think I'll like that look of loose fibers anyway on it. And it can be a bit of work to get fabric to glue down unless you use something like gel medium, but I don't want to use a heavy gel medium on this, so I'm just going to work with it. Sometimes it works best if you just kind of saturate everything with plenty of matte medium. Now I kind of feel like I'm already getting off a little bit. So I'm actually just, well, we'll see. I'm going to keep going, but I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to follow that little pattern that I had originally created. Because I think I'm going to get off, it's going to be off if I try to. Because like over here, I don't feel like I have enough petals. Oops. Oh, that is correct. I already don't feel like there are enough petals to one side of it, and I think probably I put something in the wrong place already. And I'm just going to keep going. Whoops. Thick, and kind of make the page a little bit stiff right here. So you'll want to have, kind of like keep that in mind, because when you go to work on the reverse side of this page, that area is going to be kind of stiff. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have more petals because I altered the layout of it, which is kind of to be expected. I've got a few here I can use. Actually gonna do, let's see, I'm gonna do this one here, and then this one here. And then I kind of feel like I'm going to need at least one more there, and I don't want to layer those directly on top of it again. So let's see. I had some of this paper left over, so I'm going to cut a few more. This is a good example of why you don't toss your scraps until you're absolutely done. This will help keep it from looking too much the same product. That one's just way too wide, so I'm simply going to cut it down. Go. That's our last one. And then again, I'm just going to go over everything quickly. Make sure that everything is stuck down well. Now, because I've added some matte medium in places and not in others, I've got like these really weird different textures going on. So I'm just going to quickly go over most of the rest of the page with some more matte medium, and it's not going to 100% make everything the exact same texture unless I did a really heavy coat, but it will help keep everything to kind of feeling like it works together a bit. So I don't really want to cut this when it's dry, because although it's not quite as thick as I thought it was going to be, it's still kind of thick right here. So I'm going to try to cut it while it's still wet. I'm going to flip it over so I can see where my line is and just kind of gently put my hand under it. It can be tricky cutting tissue paper because it wants to grab a hold of your scissors and not and like bunch up. So if that happens, you can just let that little bit dry and then get that at the end. Once it's dried, you'll be able to remove it. Like it happened to me right here. Let's see if I can get it. Yeah, I got it. Okay, so that's the piece that was left over, and I only ended up having one tiny little gold tissue paper leaf left. It's not quite as symmetrical as I had laid it out originally, but I think it's still really pretty. I like it. I'm very happy with it. It's kind of wet, but I'll try to give you, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like a patchwork quilt. So we need to let that pretty much dry, and because the butterfly that I'm using is vellum, it'll crinkle if I put it down on here while it's wet. So in between though, the one thing that I want to do is make sure that everything, again, kind of flows together. So what I'm going to do in order to achieve that is go back to the original colors that I made the background with. I'm just moving this scraps of paper out of the way. So I'm going to go back to the fluorescent pink, get a little bit of that out. And then I'm going to go back to my flat brush, and I'm just going to add some of the fluorescent pink. And you can see how just by doing that, it kind of pushes it back to the, so it's not such a strong difference between the pieces. Kind of merges them together a bit. So I'm going to do that in a few places with the fluorescent pink. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other colors as well. And I'm going to do it with the border piece and the doily. So now I'm using the lighter, more opaque pink color. And then some of this yellow. Because I'm using these craft paints, and because I tend to buy colors that are more translucent, you can still see the difference where the different types of paper are placed on the page. It's just not as dramatic as it was. Kind of feel like I got rid of a little too much of my pink here. That's pretty good. I'm just going to stop futzing with it now, because that's what I'll do, is just fuss with it too much. Just use up the rest of this little bit of paint. And clean this off. Now I need to let everything dry so that I can add the final bit, which is the butterfly. But I think I do know I'm going to put the butterfly here. So I'm actually just going to try to heat gun that part of it, and then that way we can be done with the second part of this and move, once everything's dry, let it all sit and dry, and then we can move into the final part, which is all of the details and the journaling. So I will pause this or speed this up on the camera, on the video. Okay, I don't know if you noticed it, but I was fussing with it because there was an air bubble in it, and I ripped that one. It's a good reason why you shouldn't fuss with it when it's wet. Now these are designed to be, they have like little folds in them because they're designed to actually stick up from what you're placing it on. Obviously, it's going to be in a journal, so it's going to get flattened out. However, I'm not going to attach anything but that very center of the butterfly so that the little wings can lift up a little bit. I'm just kind of folding the edges because they're curling a tiny bit, which is just due to the fact of the layers of the paper napkin. So I'm just going to glue this very centerpiece down. I'm just deciding whether or not I want the wing to stick out or not. I think I don't, because it'll just get paint on it from the next page. So I think I'm probably going to adhere the butterfly right there. But I really do need my glue. Got to figure out what I've done with it. I just don't see it anywhere. I know it was here just a day ago. So frustrating. Well, I'm going to try to use this Scrapbooker's glue. I do need something that I know is strong and is going to hold well with a piece of vellum. And I know this is a wet glue, so it's going to react with it, but I'm going to take that risk. Let's see if anything will come out of it. Yeah, I think it will. But I really want to make sure this stays in place. I don't want my butterfly to fall off later. Okay, so I'm going to put a butterfly about here, and all I'm really going to do is just press down. But I know the vellum is going to continue to try to curl because that's just the nature of vellum. So I'm actually going to put something not necessarily weighty, but something that will cover that whole area to help encourage it to dry. So I've just got this little bottle of hand soap, waterless hand soap. So I'm just going to put it down where I can see that it's, holding the base of the butterfly in place. And now I'm just going to let this dry. Because of the amount of matte medium that I used here, it's probably going to take a couple of hours for this to really get nice and dry. And I think I kind of want to fix that. And I did have one little gold petal left. And I think I can just fudge it a little bit. Hopefully. It may not be perfect, but hopefully it'll at least cover that tiny rip that's there. And I'm just going to get really technical here because I've already put the brush in the water and it's got paint all over it. So I'm just going to use my finger. And I am, going to try to be gentle and not rip the next piece, hopefully. That's pretty good. There, you can barely, if you can even tell at all. Not bad. So. Alright, I think that's it for this portion of the video. We will, when this is completely dry, we'll come back and then we'll do our third part for this page.